Warning, some spoilers ahead. So, when I was a kid, my mom would make weekly trips to the supermarket to cash in on her extremely impressive amount of coupon clippings. And I'm really not kidding about that, she actually made the morning news because of it. But anyway, on one particular Friday night, I decided to go with her out of boredom. And that was when I happened upon something amazing, something unexpected, something that has managed to stick with me all the way into modern day gaming addiction adulthood. That amazing unexpected thing was Metroid Prime. During the lucky date of November 18th, 2002, this fantastic gem was released as an exclusive to the unforgettable, unique, beautiful console known as the Nintendo GameCube. And it just so happened that the nearest supermarket set up their own GameCube along with a few demos packed into it, and one of the 5 demos was, you guessed it,
Track Evolution, bitch. Yeah. 1000 out of 10. Holy balls.
I actually never played a Metroid game before. The closest I ever got to playing as Samus was when I selected to play as her on Smash Bros. 64 a few times. Of course, that doesn't count, because I sucked playing as her in that game. But yeah, when I tried the demo, I was immediately hooked. I'd think about it all week long, like I was waiting for the next new episode of the original Digimon series. And when Friday finally did roll around, I'd be off to the store with my mom again, and while she shopped, I played. I'd play through that little demo over and over again, every Friday. Every single Friday. As fun as the demo was, it was a very small taste. It always wanted to reset itself right as or just before reaching the prologue boss, and the playthrough only took around 10 minutes. But one taste of it and I was already sold. I was hooked like a common drug addict. I felt as though I had eaten the forbidden fruit birthed by the tree of knowledge itself. Okay, you caught me, I'm overselling it, but as a kid with a walnut-sized brain, that's how it felt. Holy shit, I can turn into a ball and I can shoot stuff. Mind blown. So, naturally, the logical next step in my 13-year-old world was to make it absolutely clear to my parents that all I wanted for Christmas, more than anything, was a GameCube and a copy of this game. I didn't want any other gifts. I was very careful not to accidentally mention ever wanting anything else. Ever. Not food, not clothing, not love, not affection. I just want that game. And by the divinely generous grace of my parents, I was given the very thing I desired most on Christmas morning. We did have to go back to the store though to get a memory card because that was a thing, but still. Not only did they get me the game, a memory card, and the console, but they also decided, you know what, fuck it, let's kick it up to fucking 11 and get him the limited edition platinum console with matching controller. That was when I knew my parents loved me. Not because they fed me, clothed me, protected me, and nurtured me, but because they bought me this tinfoil colored GameCube. I was speechless. And guess what I did all Christmas break? I played that game like my life depended on it, as if putting the controller down would somehow cut off my oxygen supply and kill me. Fuck going outside. I'm Samus Aran. I'm already in outer space. Can't get more outside than that, bitch. Now, over the course of the last 20 plus years, I have replayed the original Metroid Prime quite a few times. And of course I played the 2 sequels a few times too, and yeah, those were good. Except for fuck you Metroid Prime 2, for limiting beam weapon ammunition. What the hell? But anyway, what made Metroid Prime so special? Well, at the time of its release, the game looked like something very unique, especially to the walnut-sized brain of a 13-year-old. For example, you become Ball, you poop bombs. You unbecome Ball. You see Waypoint, you go to Waypoint. You profit. You require no aiming skills. You just lock on to initiate the game's built-in aimbot, sit back, and pull the trigger. Which, not to keep bringing it up, but science shows us that 13-year-olds have walnut-sized brains. I was 13. The easier the game's mechanics were for me to understand, the better I felt about myself. You also scan things. Actually, you scan everything, because your OCD will demand that you have to 100% complete this game. You shoot with different colors. You wear different colors. You see with different colors. You travel to different colors. Taste the rainbow. Now, I hear a lot of you hypothetical people inside my head saying something like, that's cool, but why is this relevant? Well, it's relevant to me because I just recently got around to buying my own Nintendo Switch, and I played Metroid Prime again with an impressive new coat of paint. Naturally, that means I'm 13 again inside my slightly bigger but kinda still walnut-sized brain. I am in the right mental space to make a retrospective/review video for Metroid Prime Remastered. Like almost all other games in the Metroidvania genre, you spend your time exploring a world whereby you overcome obstacles, kill off threats, and find new upgrades which allow you to overcome other obstacles you were otherwise unable to overcome when you first walked by. This means backtracking is definitely a key mechanic in the game, which for many people feels like an annoyance when it comes to this genre, but I mean, come on, Metroid Prime's backtracking isn't that bad, you know? It's not always a chore. okay, it has its moments, I won't lie to you. Sometimes you're gonna be like, okay, come on man, I've been back here 6 times in the last hour. But it's worth it, I promise. Really. But what sets this game apart from its predecessors anyway? What makes it so unique? Well, first-person mode and 3D visuals. Although it's not without its many similarities to the other games, you have your beams, you have your missiles, you have ball, you have suit, you have new suit 2, you have new suit 3, sometimes 4, you have Metroids, and a vast world to explore full of annoying tiny creatures. The parallels are everywhere, but with the small addition of the first-person perspective in a 3-dimensional landscape, the experience becomes something a bit different. This newly added spice to the formula is a welcome one, and I really fucking want Metroid Prime 4. Gameplay aside for the moment though, what about the lore? Samus, as always, is a silent protagonist, except for when she appears in a particular game that shall not be mentioned in this video. May it forever rot in the 9th circle of hell next to Satan himself. She explores on her own and traverses worlds that she has often never seen before. So how do we discover the heaps of lore that the game has to offer? To explain that, I have to follow the game reviewer's creed and compare this game to Dark Souls. You see, similar to Dark Souls games, there is a lot of lore surrounding you, and it's really up to you, the player, as to how much you want to dip your little head in and learn about it. With a clever little scanning visor, you are able to scan just about everything in the game. You can scan creatures, healing items, ammo items, computer systems, bosses, old messages left behind by the big bird race known as the Chozo, data logs left behind by the space pirates who have come to absorb the dying planet Talon 4's resources and experiment with the radioactive liquid glowing super cancer called Phazon, which originated from a mysterious large meteorite that fell from space and now seeps into the very core of the planet itself. Mouthful. Oh, and you can hack shit too, which is pretty neat. If you like lore, you will find it in spades here, and it actually doesn't disappoint. There's a surprising amount of depth and world building here. It's pretty sick. And we're already on the topic of one visor, so we may as well talk about the rest of them. Throughout your time playing, you will come across a total of 4 unique visors you can switch between. You have your normal combat visor, which allows you to lock onto enemies with game-breaking accuracy. You have the scan visor, which we already mentioned at length. You have the predator-like thermal visor, which allows you to see in heat signature. You're also supposed to use it to see inside of pitch-black rooms, but honestly, you're still pretty blind. Finally, you have the X-ray visor, which allows you to start your own Ghost Hunters television series. This visor also helps you discover hidden upgrades behind breakable walls that you might not have otherwise realized were breakable, or platforms that you couldn't otherwise see. All in all, pretty cool visual mechanics. Onto what is probably the most important component, the arm cannon. Your cannon is capable of firing off 4 different beam types, which you can swap around at will. You have the original lemon shooter, which has been a constant staple to the bounty hunter on all installments, as well as the wiggly worm cannon, the Metroid Slayer, and a railgun. You will find yourself swapping between these a lot based on the types of Pokemon you are fighting at the time, who all have their own weaknesses and resistances. Beam types also work as keys, which open particular color-coded doors. Oh yeah, did I mention that each one has its own alt-fire? You got the lemon-scented atom bomb, this game-breaking thing, but not without a heavy cost. Sub-Zero's finishing move, and no first-person shooter game can be complete without a flamethrower. There are other things too, like doors that need to be blasted open with a missile, the instant Tarzan vine, and a literal fucking nuke. Back to ball mode. This is another constant in the Metroid games, but when combined with a 3D landscape, you really feel like a sentient basketball, and your ability to balance is about as you'd imagine. You will find yourself using this mechanic a lot in order to get through small crevices, or climbing up magnetic rails, or even escaping certain enemies with your Sonic the Hedgehog style charge dash. Apart from weapon systems, visors, and balls, we have another interesting mechanic, the armor. At its base level, it protects you from physical harm, allows you to breathe in space and underwater, and just looks pretty nice. However, it's not without its limitations. Without the gravity suit, you move underwater about as well as someone with cinder blocks tied to his feet before getting dumped off the deep end. And without the rise suit, you'll complain whenever someone touches the thermostat. Speaking of the suit, let's touch on where Samus actually got it from. You see, Samus is not your typical science fiction fantasy space bounty hunter. As it turns out, her parents were murdered by a big space pterodactyl when she was young, leaving her to fend for herself before getting, adopted by some bipedal bird people. They then gifted her with their own DNA so she could withstand the harsh conditions of their home planet, thus making her a partial big bird person. After turning young Samus into an unholy abomination, the bird people kind of felt bad, so they hooked her up with a brand new suit of armor forged from their own amazing technology, redesigned to fit her human stature. But hey, what about the title of the game? Why are they all called Metroid? You mean to tell me your character's name isn't Metroid? Well, no, it's this jellyfish with teeth actually. But on occasion it can also be a squid, or Cthulhu. Okay, let's touch on the graphics. How does the remastered version look in comparison to the original? Well, honestly, it's pretty good. The textures are all redone and improved upon in very obvious and immediately noticeable ways. I mean, just look at this. And this. Look at these guys. Look at the arm cannon. Look at Samus. Look at this place. Look at this rock. Oh yeah. That's a pretty nice rock. But seriously, it's impressive to see this level of graphic fidelity on the Nintendo Switch, and running at a rock solid, buttery smooth 60 FPS no less, which is kind of funny when you look at some of the other releases on the Switch, which not only look worse graphically, but can hardly chug along with a stuttery 30 FPS. Not to mention some of these games are made by extremely wealthy companies. Game Freak. So if you're in need of a really gorgeous looking game that runs at a higher frame rate for your Switch, docked or handheld, then this is definitely a game worth adding to the old library. Or you could just get Tears of the Kingdom. It's up to you, really. Speaking of pocket monsters, the game has a huge array of enemies scattered around. You got beetles, carnivorous grass, beedrills, red Gyarados, this touchy-feely guy, baby ice monsters, mama ice monsters, a big graveler, this space pirate, these colorful space pirates, this annoying space pirate, these flying missile-shooting space pirates, giant phase-on mutated space pirates, a Metroid, a worse Metroid, colorful Metroids, big fat spider Metroid, a really mean Tentacool, explosive bugs, eyes that grow on the walls, big bird ghosts, creatures made of electricity that just kinda hang around, this crab that makes ball mode exploration a hassle, mechanical turrets, mechanical flamethrower with fat beedrills, little lizards, big lizard mama bug, lizards made of ice, and this stupid annoying piece of shit in the archetype of all that is dumb. I hate him. What even is this drone and why is there an invisible one? There, he's dead. Much better. Now, for anyone that hasn't played this gem yet, here's a fun tip. Upgrades such as missile expansions and health energy tanks make an ominous sound as you approach them. Many upgrades are quite hidden, so be sure to listen for this particular sound. It will get louder as you get closer. Sometimes you'll find upgrades that you can't reach until you discover the necessary suit upgrade, so backtracking is necessary if you're actually going to attempt to 100% this game. Speaking of good old backtracking, let's say hello to Samus's best little helper, the map.
If there's a place you gotta go, I'm the one you need to know. I'm the map. I'm the map. I'm the map. If there's a place you gotta get, I can get you there, I bet. I'm the map.
The map system is very simple, but also very effective. You can discover more portions of the map as you explore, or you can unlock and complete a map via special rooms which allow you to download entire locations. It also becomes your most important ally toward the end. You see, very early in the game, you might discover the impact crater, where the phazon-infested meteorite lies and festers. When the big birds were still alive, they suppressed the flow of the giant rock's infestation with a magical seal. However, in order to completely eradicate its influence upon the planet, you will need to lift the seal and enter the very core and kill Cthulhu. And this is where the map becomes your best ally. For you see, in order to break the seal, you must find not 1, not 2, not 10, but 12 big bird artifacts spread throughout the lands. For every artifact you bring back to the impact crater, you unlock scannable hints that basically give you the exact name of the location, or part of the name of the location, where another artifact is awaiting you. Look at the name written in green in your menu screen, open the map and find said location, and make your way to the area. Oh yeah, baby, it's backtracking like you've never seen before. You're gonna love it. Once you finally discover each artifact, you will almost be ready to enter the very gates of hell, but not before you're halted by your eternal nemesis, a crippled dinosaur living on life support. Claim vengeance for Samus's parents and pull the plug on him. After you flatlined him, enter the gateway and move deeper into the bowels. From here you will be tested by a wide assortment of Metroid Skittles, but after you run from all of them shitheads because fuck those guys, make your way into the very throne room of the technologically upgraded, phazon producing, RGB light set to shuffle mode, big spider demon codename Metroid Prime. The whole fight is pretty cool. It basically tests your level of skill with most of your abilities and even provides you with a new weapon that's only used while straight up decimating it. I'll try to hold back on over-explaining how the fight itself actually works because I've already spoiled so damn much. Alright guys, to wrap this up, let's do the math for the final rating. First, graphics. I give the graphical fidelity a silky, sleek, smooth, surface out of 10. Gameplay. For the collective rating on gameplay, let's call it whatever the name of your favorite video game is, out of 10. lore. For the depth and detail of the lore, let's call it a delicious chocolate vanilla swirl out of 10, with sprinkles. It's always nice when you, the player, have the option to dive into the unfolding story and the details of what came before, or just ignore it all completely and mow down every little critter that moves. The choice is yours, and freedom of choice is delicious. Optimization. Despite the upgrade to graphic fidelity and the open world-like mechanics, this game still manages to run itself at a solid 60 frames per second on the Switch, so I wonder what Game Freak's excuse is. The issue obviously isn't the console. I mean, look at your game. Now look at this game. Look at fucking Tears of the Kingdom. That's an actual open world game that looks like a far more demanding piece of video game as opposed to, oh, I don't know, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and still manages to run at 60 frames? Game Freak, buddy. You gotta stop pulling the trigger so quickly. You'll get your cocaine money. Just wait a little longer, please. Oops, I got off track. Oh yeah, soundtrack. Yeah, I totally forgot to mention the soundtrack in this video. Well, no time like the present. So yeah, the soundtrack is great. I love it, everyone loves it, you'll love it too. Soundtrack gets a good soundtrack out of 10. Okay, now after calculating everything together with my big fat walnut brain, I have demised that Metroid Prime Remastered has earned itself a collective rating of, a limited edition Platinum Nintendo GameCube with matching controller out of 10. Thank you all for your time. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed throwing it together. If you made it this far, be sure to pummel that like button into oblivion, subscribe if you haven't yet, and say something to me in the comments below. Please, I just want to know that you're okay. You're all appreciated, and just know, even though the world out there might be cold and unloving, I love you more than you could ever imagine. Alright, that's it, little ones. Until next time.